A very good evening. We are right next to the Wooler Lake in the Kashmir Valley. And the reason that this location is so important is because it is at the heart of the Indus Water Treaty debate, which has now turned into a veritable war between India and Pakistan. This after India suspended the Indus Water Treaty till Pakistan keeps promoting terrorism. I wish I could show you the stunning, breathtaking beauty of the Wooler Lake. The reason that you're seeing the town, the rain drenched town behind me, is that it's been pouring here and we had to run from the lake and take shelter. And now the sun is out. And so the turbulence and the volatility of the weather mirrors the volatility on the ground. As many of you know, I've been here on the ground, and whether it is the line of control, or whether it is the Wooler Lake at the heart of this battle between India and Pakistan when it comes to the Indus Water Treaty, we've been covering every dimension of this story, of this security situation after the Pahalgam terror attack. And today, even as we are at the Wooler Lake and we'll be playing ground reports from there in this program, Pakistan has made a brazen, open, warmongering threat. Its Minister Khwaja Asif has gone on record to say that if India builds any structure to try and stop the flow of water into Pakistan, Pakistan will quote unquote strike that structure. So Pakistan has made an open threat of war if they say India goes ahead with trying to stop the flow of the water into Pakistan. There's a lot to talk about. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. For the last few days, we have been here on the ground and looking at all dimensions of how India is getting combat ready. Whether it is the Indian Air Force that has been doing these dramatic landings as part of its drill on the Ganga Expressway, and those drills continued through the night, or it's the Navy that has been firing anti-warship missiles as part of its drill. Remember, the Indian Navy and the Pakistan Navy have been eye to eye off the coast of Gujarat. What India is really signaling to Pakistan is its war readiness. After the Pahalgam terror attack, all bets are off. The Prime Minister has given an operational free hand to the forces. Meanwhile, a new threat has come from Pakistan. Khwaja Asif, its defense minister, has openly said that Pakistan will strike any structure in India that India attempts to execute as part of the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. I'm right here outside the Wooler Lake. I took a boat down the lake. There you can see the lake. I was there just moments ago. And this lake and the Tulbul project on it has long been a bone of contention between India and Pakistan. And now that India has suspended the treaty, water has become a weapon. And we've been interviewing, as you can see, the local community leaders here. And by the way, nobody in Jammu and Kashmir wanted the Indus Water Treaty. So they're all very happy that it has been suspended. We've also been traveling to the line of control. You see that report. Can we move on to that image? That's a community bunker at a small village at the line of control where Pakistan is continuing its unprovoked firing day after day after day. The LOC is hot and war clouds are looming, just like the rain clouds that have come pouring down on us moments ago. Let me introduce a very special guest today. I want to welcome to the program somebody I greatly respect. I learn a lot from him. I've learned a lot from him as a young reporter here covering the Kashmir beat. We, of course, know him as the General Officer commanding of the 15 Corps, but he has also had vast operational experience as somebody who has been the commander at Uri, the Brigade Commander of Uri, and that's exactly the sector where I visited and reported from, a small village, very remote village at the line of control. General Ata Hasnain is with us. Welcome, sir, to the program.
Thank you.
Let
Thank you
me
very much,
start by...
Barkha.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm going to start by playing out, since I am at Wooler Lake, I'm going to start out by playing this bizarre brazen, unilateral threat of strike that has come from Pakistan. Pakistan is clearly rattled, but this is intriguingly and significantly in connection to the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. And a Pakistani journalist is interviewing Khwaja Asif and asking about India's decision to suspend this treaty. And this is what he says. Take a look.
इनफैक्ट वहां तो ये भी कहा जा रहा है कि फौरी तौर पे तो ये पॉसिबल भी नहीं है, जैसे आप भी कह रहे हैं, और इसको एक सिंबॉलिक मेजर के तौर पे कहा जा रहा है, लेकिन आप कह रहे हैं फिर भी हम इसको चैलेंज करेंगे। लेकिन अगर
बिल्कुल करेंगे, बिल्कुल करेंगे।
पानी रोकने की कोशिश करते हैं या रुख मोड़ने की कोशिश करते हैं, तो फिर क्या पाकिस्तान जब कहता है जंग तस्वुर किया जाएगा, क्या इसका ये मतलब है देन वी कैन स्ट्राइक फर्स्ट आल्सो?
बिल्कुल, अगर कोई इस किस्म का स्ट्रक्चर बनाने की कोशिश करेंगे, वी विल स्ट्राइक दैट स्ट्रक्चर। बिल्कुल वी विल स्ट्राइक दैट स्ट्रक्चर। दैट विल बी एन एक्ट ऑफ एग्रेशन अगेंस्ट पाकिस्तान। वो पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ जारियत होगी। जारियत सिर्फ तोप के गोलों से या बंदूक चलाने से नहीं होती। जारियत के बहुत से अशकाल होते हैं, बहुत सी उसकी जो फेसेस होते हैं, उसमें ये भी एक फेस है, बहुत बड़ा फेस है। इससे तो कौमें जो हैं वो प्यास से या भूख से मर सकती हैं। तो ये अगर उन्होंने इस किस्म का अटेम्प्ट भी किया को आर्किटेक्चरल, तो स्ट्रक्चर को पाकिस्तान जो है डिस्ट्रॉय करेगा।
So, General Hasnain, while Pakistan claims that it's India's attack that is imminent, and they even took that whiny, whingy complaint to the United Nations, you have an open, brazen threat from Pakistan's defense minister saying Pakistan will initiate a strike if India goes ahead to execute the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. Now, as I mentioned to you, I'm right outside the Wooler Lake, the second largest freshwater lake in Asia, and nobody here wants the Indus Water Treaty. They're all applauding the decision of the government to suspend it. I want you, though, to talk about that brazen, aggressive threat that we have seen from Pakistan, a threat of strike today. Go ahead, sir.
See, Barkha, Khwaja Asif is a rookie. He's a rookie defense minister. He has no idea. I think the use of words in his case, he has no idea what it means to strike an objective anywhere across the line of control. And he does not realize the implications of that. It's very good. You can talk about it. You can strike anything you want in India. You can, after all, Pakistan does have a missile capability today. They can go out and try and destroy certain assets, certain infrastructural assets that India has created to send home a message to the world that Pakistan has that capability. But then, what after? This is the problem with Pakistan all through, where they have always mentioned, हमारे पास भी हथियार हैं, हमारे पास भी nuclear हथियार हैं, as if India is, a nation with no army, is a nation with no defense and security assets. This attitude and approach somehow flummoxes me each time, because the Pakistani establishment itself has to understand that acts of war against us, provocations, which they've already done through this Pahalgam attack, will invariably lead to a response from our side. And a strike against a structure coming up on a river anywhere will be a brazen act of war. If they think stopping the Indus waters is going to be an act of war, what about the strike against a structure in India? So I think Khwaja Asif is doing this well. Any defense minister, I suppose, will do this when he's under threat. We've seen this over the years since 1971. Even in 1971, there was a very brazen, upfront kind of a bravado on the part of the Pakistan army, on the part of various functionaries of the Pakistan armed forces overall. Even I remember in 1971, even in Bangladesh, the idea was projection. And this is what we have to understand, that this projection is provocative, no doubt, but it actually is hollow. Yeah.
So it's something that you are not overly concerned about. You sound more bemused than concerned.
I suppose, yes, because I look at it this way, that Pakistan's capability-wise, look at their economy, look at their overall capability. Yes, they have matching assets in many ways, not in quantum, but definitely in quality. They do have some matching assets on ground with them. They can choose to initiate something. We must remember one thing about Pakistan, of course, that their decisions are never rational decisions. Even this Pahalgam attack, if you really look at it, it's against the run of play. Things were going okay for Pakistan at the moment in the sense that they've got an internal security problem which they need to resolve. They need to stabilize. They need to stabilize their western front. This is not the time to turn around to the eastern front and provoke a nation which is far, far larger, which has got an economy of $4 trillion and can outlast them in a war situation at any time. So Pakistan has this habit of carrying out irrational acts, as you saw in Kargil too. The attempt, they are very brilliant at this, no doubt. Surprise factor, no one can beat them. They will surprise you, like they've surprised us this time too. They'll surprise you. But what next? Where will they take it? And this is something we should ask Khwaja Asif Saab. कि शुरुआत तो आप कर दोगे, आप एक हिट भी मार दोगे मिसाइल की, उसके बाद क्या करोगे? क्या do you have the power to absorb what India will do thereafter?
It's a great point, and I want to actually play out for you the local sentiment here. General Hasnain, you have been the GOC for the entire valley, so you know this already. But a lot of our larger audience doesn't understand the Indus Water Treaty. And what is very important is that the people here have for long been saying, please get rid of this treaty. It's hurting the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I took a boat down the Wooler Lake, which is at the heart of the Indus Water Treaty debate, and the Tulbul navigation project on this lake. Pakistan has been objecting to it for years. So already it exemplifies the kind of fiction we've seen between India and Pakistan on the treaty. But now that the treaty is suspended, it's very important to hear how happy people here are that the treaty has been suspended. Take a look. अब मैं दिखाना चाहती हूँ आपको, यहाँ से हमारे जो लोकल एक्सपर्ट्स हैं वो भी हमारे साथ इस जर्नी में निकले हैं. वुलर लेक पर हम आज हैं और मेरे साथ भी एक लोकल एक्सपर्ट है, एक लोकल यहाँ कम्युनिटी लीडर है और दूसरे शिकारे में भी आपको नजर आएंगे जो यहाँ के लोकल कम्युनिटी के लोग हैं. उनका क्या कहना है इस ट्रीटी को लेकर, याद दिलाते हुए कि कश्मीर के लोग हमेशा ही, जम्मू कश्मीर के लोग हमेशा ही इस ट्रीटी के खिलाफ रहे हैं. आपका नाम सर?
जी, मेरा नाम मैम मोहम्मद अब्दुल्ला पसवाल है और मैं एक सोशल एक्टिविस्ट के साथ साथ ट्राइबल लीडर भी हूँ. जी, जैसा कि मैम आपने कहा कि जो इंडस वाटर ट्रीटी हुई थी 1960 में, उसमें जो 6 रिवर्स हैं, इंडस है, जहलम है या सतलुज है या रवि है, रावी है, जो 3 जो है उनका ईस्टर्न हिस्सा और जो 3 है उनका वेस्टर्न हिस्सा है, पाकिस्तान की जानब जो जाता है. देखें मैडम, किसी भी खासकर एग्रीकल्चर, जो कि इंडिया और पाकिस्तान, जब हम इस सब कंटिनेंट की बात करें तो एग्रीकल्चर इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट ये इकोनॉमिक जो है जरिया है. जी, तो हम देखते हैं कि एक जो इंडस वाटर टेरिटरी है उसमें सबसे बड़ा शिकार जम्मू कश्मीर रही है. किस वजह से रही है? देखें आप, हमारे यहाँ देखें कि हमें जो है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बहुत क्राइसिस है. हालांकि हमारे यहाँ बहुत अच्छे प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं बिजली के, बहुत
लेकिन ये ट्रीटी नहीं होती तो और हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक प्रोजेक्ट्स हो सकते हैं.
मैं वही कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि अगर ये टेरिटरी नहीं होती तो हमारे यहाँ और बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट मिलते और हमारी जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी क्राइसिस है यहाँ जम्मू कश्मीर में, वो जो है हमें 24/7 जो है हमें बिजली मिलती और उससे हमारे वसाइल बढ़ जाते और बहुत सारी चीजें होती. और ये हम इस चीज के तभी खिलाफ रहे कि ये जो इंडस वाटर टेरिटरी है इसको आप कैंसिल कर दें. अगर आप जो इंडिया ने रेस्पॉन्स किया है टेरर अटैक के लिए, तो मुझे लगता है कि सबसे बेहतरीन चीज है और इसका सबसे बड़ा फायदा जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को होगा.
इंडिया ने जो फैसला किया है वो सबसे बेहतरीन चीज है और सबसे ज्यादा फायदा जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के लोगों को होगा. You know, you're a thinking general, not that others are not, but you're more thinking than many I know. Talk a little bit about the significance of the suspension of the treaty. There are skeptics who say बहुत time लगेगा, बहुत वक्त लगेगा इसको execute करने में. But look at the way Pakistan is responding. Bilawal Bhutto is saying या खून बहेगा या पानी. Khwaja Asif is saying we'll strike you if you dare to do this. It has rattled them. Talk a little bit about the significance.
Yes, Barkha, there is an immense amount of water which flows in the Jhelum. Let's start with the Jhelum, which flows through from here and goes past Uri through the Jhelum Valley, past Uri into the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir area. A tremendous amount of water flows on that. We have the Uri 1 and the Uri 2 projects already on it. The Uri 2 project came up in my time when I was the commander of the Uri Brigade, right? And I know the pondage, how it was planned out, etc. We had a lot of experts from the Indus Water Treaty IWT people who came to us and gave a lot of advice to the project people at that time. That pondage can be increased by us. I remember the last time I was there 3 weeks ago, the pondage was not very high. I mean, in the sense the water storage was not very high. We can store it to a much larger extent, to a much greater capacity, and allow the water to flow in just a trickle. If you actually go down from Uri towards the command post, and you have been there many times, if you go there, on the way you can find in certain periods of the monsoon, you will find a raging torrent of the Jhelum flowing down the Red Bridge and the Twin Bridge area, etc. But there are times in winter when you don't have enough water to even run a single turbine of the Uri 1 or the Uri 2 project. So that is the time when India stores up, and the requirement is to actually release certain amounts of water, which we do. As a country which has always respected the IWT so far, we have always been letting out that water. Today, winter in particular, if we don't let out the water, the Jhelum, right from Salamabad, a little beyond Salamabad, onwards up to the Twin Bridge and on to Muzaffarabad, will run completely dry. Look at the Domailed area in Muzaffarabad, where the Jhelum takes a turn. You will find that this complete stretch will run completely dry. So it's not just a simple threat. A lot of people who have not seen these rivers or seen the projects on the rivers may not realize the value of the water which is stored in these various projects. The same goes for Kishangangai up on top in the Gurez Valley. That's a very important project again, and that also was objected to tremendously by Pakistan. Lots of visits have been made by Pakistani experts along with our experts and people from the World Bank and the International Court of Justice and things like that are up in Gurez. So there is no doubt that just in invoking this whole clause of this entire aspect of withholding or suspending the IWT has led to a tremendous pressure on Pakistan. I'm not sure how much Bilawal Bhutto really understands all this. You know, for him, it is just a question of a lot of optics, talking about khoon bahega and this, that. Khoon to, I mean, bahega hi. Kiska khoon bahega, that we have to see ultimately.
Well said. He's sounding more and more unhinged, by the way, every single day. He gave a strange interview saying Pakistan has a past. Khwaja Asif today making threats to strike India has said on Sky News that Pakistan used to do dirty work, conceding that they used terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Now let's turn from the Indus Water Treaty to the overall situation. One of the interesting points, and we'll get to the line of control in just a moment, but one of the very interesting points that you made on my show is to say keep them guessing. Yes, it is natural that there is a kind of restlessness. People want to see visible action. There is a great deal of rage and anguish, naturally, and testimony upon testimony of the families has been truly, truly heartbreaking. But General Hasnain, you're one of the few people to say what happens is more important than when it happens. The military, naturally, and the government is under enormous pressure of public sentiment. When you look at the overall situation, J.D. Vance saying to the extent Pakistan is responsible, it must cooperate, but India must not, extend this to a regional war. China rhetorically supporting Pakistan's demand for an investigation. How do you look today at the overall situation we stand at about more than 10 days now since the Pahalgam terror attack?
Thank you. And that's a very important question for us to discuss. At the outset, I may state that I completely support the policies of the government of India. And I think the manner in which they're playing this out is absolutely apt. And that's how it should happen. Why do I say this? I say this because a lot of people feel that we should have had a response within hours, that we should have been prepared after Pulwama, or before that after Uri. We should have been prepared militarily in such a way as if all you had to do was to pull a trigger and something would happen and something would get destroyed in Pakistan. I ask those people, what next? Is that all that you're looking for? Because obviously something else will happen after that, so you haven't catered for it. This kind of a situation, and as you have yourself just described, isn't only military in nature. It is political, it is diplomatic, it is hugely military, it is very largely economic. It has a large impact on the economic environment of the entire subcontinent, right? And therefore, as I have always been talking about it as one of my favorite terms, this is a hybrid situation. And hybrid situations are not responded to militarily. You have to respond to it in taking all aspects into consideration, what is called usually an all of government approach. I think the government of India has been able to allay public pressure. There's been a tremendous public pressure, and I can imagine the situation, the position in which Prime Minister Modi has to take these decisions. There is tremendous political pressure, public pressure. The political environment also is difficult in the sense he has to tread very carefully, making sure that his own image and the image of the nation, the image of his party is not compromised in any way, and yet deliver a blow which has a required impact for the kind of situation that we are in. This is one of the most difficult situations you can ever put yourself in. It's not like Netanyahu, where when something happened, he had the fullest backing of the United States. The asymmetric situation between him and the Palestinians was such that he could just take a military decision immediately. A lot of people compare Israel with India, never realizing this particular aspect. The aspect of the asymmetry and the aspect of the support from the world's only superpower. So India has been given a lot of advice, as you saw by J.D. Vance, to take it up to a point for Pakistan to cooperate, etc. Can we be brazen in such an environment? We cannot. So what I think we are doing is very correctly, we are looking at all the options, we're keeping it going. And only yesterday I was telling someone that immediately what comes to mind is the 1971 situation, when we had not been immediately affected on the 23rd of March when things started happening in East Pakistan. But Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi at that time, did call the Field Marshal and asked him to undertake military operations immediately. And the Field Marshal famously refused, or rather he gave her advice and said, if you want us to go in, ensure that it is in such a situation where we are in a position to win the war. We don't want to go and destroy the crops of Punjab, the standing crops of Punjab with our tanks at this time of the year. We don't want the passes open so that the Chinese come in and intervene in this particular situation. If the war is extended, what will happen to our east-west crossing of our reserve formations from the west to the east, etc.? I mean, all the factors were laid out completely. I think a similar situation exists today, where you have a situation in which you are wishing to go, you want to go all out, but you are held back by a certain amount of things which dictate that you should go in when you are completely ready. And when the impact will be the maximum, the outcome of the situation will be to your advantage. And that's all that I have been saying to everyone, that because of this strategy the government of India has adopted today, you are keeping your adversary waiting. Let him wait forever. And you are in a situation where his waiting is a penalty on him. It's causing him economic penalties, right? It's not a country which can afford to keep 300,000 troops in a state of mobilization, all reserves put forward, etc., moving all the ammunition forward, putting mines, etc. It can't afford to do it at the moment. And this itself is a huge punishment for Pakistan. But at the same time, we also need to be prepared completely militarily for all options. And I go to the extent of saying, be prepared defensively. Be prepared defensively too, because lots of things could still happen in Kashmir, which could upset the whole apple cart again. So therefore, we need to be very circumspect about the entire spectrum which is available in front of us.
I'm so glad you made this point, because I was talking to somebody on the ground, and as you know, there's a massive manhunt on for the terrorists who did this in Pahalgam. One of them suspected to have had active links with the Pakistan army, having, possibly being a former soldier, Hashim Musa, and I said, what if Pakistan and Pakistan-backed terror groups try another terror strike? So this point you've made about be defensively aggressive is also very critical.
I for one, I'm one of those who loves to, of course, I don't have that map in my office today, but in the days as a co-commander, I would always, or even as a division or a brigade commander, I would put the map in front of me and stare at it. And the map, I always realized, would speak back to you. Metaphorically speak back to you and tell you lots and lots of things. It starts getting revealed. Which are the areas which are our weaknesses? Which are the areas which, are very, very vulnerable? All this, and at the moment when I'm looking at the map, I'm even looking at Google Maps, I find that there are vulnerable areas in Jammu and Kashmir. And therefore, we need to be extremely careful, even as we are carrying out this manhunt. Up in a few weeks' time, you will find the Amarnath Yatra coming up, one of the most important religious faith-based events in India. And I do the complete disaster management, training for that, etc. And I hope lots and lots of security will be provided for this.
I'm so glad you mentioned the Amarnath Yatra, because I was in Pahalgam 2 days ago, and there's a big sign about the Amarnath Yatra, and it's just, the irony of that. Hindus have been targeted, the tourists have been targeted after establishing their religion, and the Amarnath Yatra is now, just a few weeks away. So we've got to look at internal security, even as we look at external options, external kinetic action. Now, I want to turn my attention to the line of control, your old stomping ground. As the general officer commanding, you looked at the entire valley. But as the brigade commander, you looked at Uri. And I was at Uri. We'll play out a report for you from there in just a moment. But if you can start by talking about the fact that the LOC is hot again. And every day we wake up to these bulletins from the army about a night of unprovoked firing. The ceasefire that started in 2003, renewed in 2021, had more or less held. Is it fair to say that the ceasefire is effectively over?
No, Barkha, I don't think so. So far, the reports which have come to me say that there are certain areas, like for example in Tangdhar, Tutamari Gali, Uri, some areas in Rajouri, where there have been exchanges of fire, and regularly at night there have been exchanges of fire. This has been small arms firing. This is all calibrated. It's not brazenly out of control. It's not as if artillery exchanges are taking place or mortar duels are taking place. It is small arms primarily. And a lot of people are saying it's happening because they are trying to aid infiltration. Well, one or two areas, the normal system, the strategy which is followed by the other side is that they will keep you guessing. They will fire in 10 places and try and induct 2 or 3 terrorists through one of the locations, etc. So you have to be very, very careful. The line of control fence, LC fence, is a huge asset that we have. And it was constructed, as you remember, in 2003 under the orders of General Nirmal Vij at that particular time. And it was the one which changed the mathematics of terror completely in the valley. If you just as a recall, I think it may be interesting for people to know that in the year 2001, the Indian Army killed 2,100 terrorists, right? 2,100 terrorists. That's the highest number through the campaign. But the problem was that every year, so many more got created because they came in by infiltration, or they came in by recruitment, local recruitment. So your 2,100 lost in a year were recreated. General Wij's whole strategy was how to make sure that the mathematics goes in our favor, which means that the number of terrorists we kill exceeds the number of terrorists which can be recreated. And from 2004 onwards, the 1st of July 2004 onwards, to about 2008, 2009, this strategy played out beautifully. And that is how the terrorist strength kept coming down. And today, the strength of terrorists is, by one estimate, 100 to 130, not more than that. Some of them, most of them are foreign terrorists, I'm told. So the role of infiltration is important, and Uri is one of those areas through which infiltration takes place in a big way, right? Divided by the Jhelum, this area is divided by the Jhelum, two sides of it, high mountains. Uri is one of those places where you go from 4,000 feet, which is the lowest in the valley, 4,000 feet up to 14,500 feet at the Kala Pahad. Right, so you can see the kind of challenge that this particular formation has in preventing infiltration. At the higher areas, it's very difficult to actually fence those areas, but yet they are fenced. Yet those areas are all fenced. So this firing at the moment which is taking place, to my mind, is more symbolic. I don't think anything, not a casualty has been reported yet, and anyway, our defenses are very strong. Our troops are well trained, so there's no question that easily there will be any casualties at this particular time. So what is happening is that while people are waiting it out, there is this symbolism of aggression which plays out at the line of control. There's a terminology which famously we used to use in the army called moral domination. You have the moral domination on the line of control. I am the better army. I am the better trained army. I have the better weapons. I have the better more ammunition.
So you're saying Pakistan is saber rattling?
That's primarily what I would say. Yes, saber rattling to an extent. Not yet crossed the Rubicon to an extent to say that the ceasefire has gone up completely in flames. It could come back, but I foresee that it will not for quite some time, because of the political temperatures which are around, diplomatically, the way things have gone about at the moment, and the military, the heat of the moment which is going on. It is not easy for it to cool off in the very near future.
It's interesting that you say it's saber rattling, because for the people who live in these villages, who've had a relative period of quiet after some many traumatic years, this is frightening to hear the sound of firing again. Although, as you said, it's small arms fire right now, and not mortar fire. But the bunkers that haven't been used in years or haven't had to be used in years are being readied again. They're being given fresh coats of paint. People are saying we need these bunkers to function again. I left the border town of Uri and I went up to a small village. I'm deliberately not naming it because why should we? I just went to a village along the line of control, and I met some villagers there. But I also looked at one of the bunkers and how the villagers were getting it readied again. And I want to play out this little clip for you. Take a look. We're inside a small village community bunker at the line of control. These kind of village bunkers have typically been used by villagers when they've had to take shelter during firing from the Pakistani side. Let me give you a sense of what they look like. They're really only 2 rooms. The camera can just move in here, and they're meant for quick, easy, and instant shelter. Now, for a long time, these bunkers have not had to be used that much, because before the Pahalgam terror attack, the ceasefire between India and Pakistan was more or less holding here at the line of control. But now that for a number of days, the firing has in fact started again. In fact, every morning we wake up to a statement from the Indian Army talking about how unprovoked firing, including light machine gun firing, has taken place from across the line of control. Villages here are saying that they need to get ready once again for the worst. they need to start preparing for the worst. So these bunkers are being cleaned up, they're being washed, they're being readied for a conflict, for a war that could come sooner rather than later. So, General Hasnain, the question to you is exactly this. The question to you is exactly this, that, you know, what is saber rattling right now is because it's small arms fire. How does it remain calibrated so that it doesn't escalate to, let's say, mortar fire? I mean, I've reported at times when I've seen, you know, mortar fire at the line of control.
Yes, Barkha, I have seen artillery duels at the line of control. I mean, this is something which keeps ratcheting. There's no logic, no rationale behind it. But in this escalating situation at the moment, I do think a rationale will be applied at times. How do I say that? At the moment, what is being perceived by all of us and perceived by the media is that Pakistan is in a state of stupor while a lot of bravado, a lot of statements are being made by politicians, etc. There are at the same time steps being taken to make sure that conflict doesn't take place, because they are not confident. Obviously, they're not confident of themselves at all. So I don't think under the circumstances there will be attempts to try and provoke. Many times these are personality-based issues on the line of control. You may have an aggressive commanding officer. You may have a very aggressive brigade commander somewhere, and he starts letting go. And one evening, a couple of rounds of mortars, one or two shells of artillery can start this entire thing. And then there is no stopping. No one counts the number of shells that you have fired 3, so I will fire 3. No, that is not so. Then it starts off with full, these things, plans being executed completely. I mean, with limited amounts of ammunition, or ammunition being told to you how much ammunition can be fired. It is planned out completely. So I think at the moment, of course, it continues to remain calibrated, but this is not a guarantee that it will remain like that. There are lots of ways by which the whole thing can go overboard.
You know, I want to end our conversation by talking about China. But before I do that, with your permission, I met an old shepherd as I was, driving up and trekking up to this LOC village. And he sang a little song for me in his own dialect. And I asked him to tell me, I said, इस गाने का मतलब क्या है? And he said, इस गाने का मतलब है कि मेरे face पे smile है, लेकिन मेरे दिल में दर्द है. And to me, it kind of captured what's happening in the Kashmir Valley right now. They're trying to move on, they're trying to soldier on, but they're feeling this pain and this weight inside. And this is the story of Muhammad Latif, a goat herd, a shepherd whom I met at a small, remote LOC village. Take a look.
घर विच हसियां पैरां बूट पुराने नी ओ मेरे नाल ना लायो मेरे दूर ठिकाने नी ओ मेरे नाल ना लायो मेरे दूर ठिकाने नी.
अब इसका मतलब समझाइए. मतलब आप कह रहे हैं कि बूट पुराने.
मतलब इसका ये है कि बात करते हुए तो हंसते हैं
पर दिल में दर्द है.
दिल में दर्द है.
ये एक तरह से आज जो कश्मीर का माहौल है पहलगाम के बाद, ये इनके गाने में उभर कर आता है कि ऊपर से हंसी, लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि जिंदगी आगे बढ़ते रहे, लेकिन दिल में दर्द.
दिल में दर्द.
ठीक बोला मैं.
सही बात है.
तो यहाँ पे क्या आप लोगों में फिर एक डर आ गया है जब फायरिंग दोबारा पाकिस्तान की तरफ से शुरू हो गई?
जबरदस्त. इतना डर आ गया कि बात ही नहीं है. रात को मतलब बैठे रहते हैं. क्या करें, हमारे घर आपने देखे, रास्ते में आते भी चल के देखो, अंदर जाके देखो, ये जैसे टंट हुए ऐसे आज के घर है. पुराने वो कोठे बना रखे थे हमारे बड़ों ने, उसमें कम से कम थोड़ा बचाव था. आज के आज तो ये मकान नहीं, ये हवा में जाएंगे.
क्या सोच रहे हैं कि अब जैसे पहले होता था ना, गांव का एक बंकर होता था.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
अभी भी है.
बिल्कुल नहीं, मतलब वो
पुराने हो गए,
पुराने
क्योंकि बीच में जरूरत नहीं पड़ी इतनी.
वो जो मतलब पहले जो हमने अपने लिए बनाए थे वो भी तो मतलब नहीं है. अब गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से तो कोई ऐसे स्कीम है नहीं, कोई बंकर बने नहीं है जहाँ पर ज्यादा मतलब जरूरी है. जैसे मैं सामने आपके बैठा हूँ, यहाँ पर मतलब गोला आना ही आना है.
अच्छा.
ऐसी जगह में मतलब ऐसे एरिया में बंकर तो जरूरी है. बारिश की तरह गोले पड़ते हैं.
बारिश की तरह
बारिश की
गोले।
तरह गोले पड़ते हैं, ये नहीं कि बीच में कोई वक्फा नहीं है उनको। रात के दिल धड़कन नहीं रहता सर, और क्या, कभी क्या हो जाएगा, कब क्या हो जाएगा, 10 मिनट में क्या होगा, 5 मिनट में क्या होगा, क्या होने वाला है, कोई समझ नहीं है। कुछ
सो पाते हैं आप लोग?
जी,
नींद आती है?
कैसे नींद आएगी सर? छोटे बच्चों की तरफ ध्यान रखेंगे, अपनी तरफ रखेंगे, किसकी तरफ रखेंगे?
क्या लगता है, कभी लगता है कि इस पहलगाम के हादसे के बाद कश्मीर और जम्मू जम्मू कश्मीर के जो लोग हैं, ये जो पाकिस्तान लश्कर टेररिस्ट को भेज देता है, इसके खिलाफ लोग उठेंगे?
सर लोग बराबर उठे हैं। आपने देखा भी, कई जगह देखा भी, हमारी यहाँ उड़ी में भी देखा, गांव में, पूरी सिटी के अलावा गांव गांव में भी ये माहौल चला। गांव गांव में हमारी मस्जिद जो होती है, हम नमाज पढ़ते हैं, नमाज पढ़ के भी हमने मतलब ये बहुत इस चीज का चर्चा किया कि ये जो भी हुआ गलत हुआ, गलत हुआ, गलत हुआ।
जो भी हुआ गलत हुआ, गलत हुआ, गलत हुआ। हमारे मस्जिद से भी हमने ये बोला, बट ऑल्सो टॉकिंग अबाउट हिज एंजाइटीज, दैट रात को हमें दोबारा ये शुरू हो गया, ये बारिश की तरह गोली। बच्चों को देखिए कि अपने आप को देखिए, हम बंकर तैयार कर रहे हैं। Do you find an inflection point in Kashmir? I think that's important to talk about. Is there something that has shifted, could shifted? Has Pakistan egregiously miscalculated, even by its own motivations?
Barkha, as far as the line of control is concerned, in the sector which you went to recently, I think, from my experience, a long experience there, I can say it was always on our side. There were few areas here and there joining, the main line of control where people, perhaps there were some guides or someone who did it for a making a fast buck or whatever it was. But by and large, the people were all loyal to the country, hugely pro-India. It is only in depth in certain areas. But I can also go back to the fact that Pakistan in 1948, also 47, 48, Operation Gulmarg, came in with this idea that the Kashmiri public will come to their support and rise as one. It never happened. You come back to 1961, 1965, Operation Gibraltar, the same thing. Again, the Razakars who came in, the whole intention was that the whole Janta will come up to them and they will ultimately capture the radio station and the television station and from there announce that they have won this war. It never happened. And even this time, from 1989 onwards, yes, there were problems in the valley. I have commanded in Baramulla before I commanded the corps itself, so I know very well how bad Sopore, Patan, Baramulla and these areas were. I've been the Colonel GS in Avantipur, so I know the area of Pulwama, Shupia, Anantnag, how bad they could be. But yes, you're right. Your question is absolutely apt for this situation at the moment. I was traveling there 4 weeks ago, and I did sense a change. And that change, earlier one used to hear it only from people speaking to you and telling you, okay, no, this is something bad and this is what has happened, etc. This time, I somehow sensed it in the eyes of the people. And I've written about this. I've come and written about it. I've spoken on with media many times. I noticed it in the eyes of the people. There was a hope that hopefully things will be now stable for a fairly long period of time. What does the Kashmiri community usually want? Family life, stable, good family life, right? I find for years, young people could not hold hands. They did not have a place to go and drink a cup of coffee. All that has come today. Those things which were missing in Kashmir have all come back today. They don't want to lose that. They don't want to lose. They want to be like the rest of India. Some of our, operations at Bhavana projects were taking young people to different parts of the country to show them development in India all over. And they used to come back. Many of them used to cry. They did not want to go home because they loved the life that they had seen outside. So all that is now coming to Kashmir back again. And I think, as you said, you reached an inflection point where things are actually changed completely. Or rather, they're changing completely. And the manner in which you've seen these scenes of people coming out on the roads with candlelight marches and things of that nature, this is something which did not happen in the past. Those were the days when on one signal on the mobile, from Baramulla, the whole of Shupia could reach Anantnag, and the whole of Anantnag could reach Srinagar. That is not there today at the moment.
Let me, I have some questions on geopolitics, but I think it's important in this program to also turn our focus back to what the families are going through, who saw the men in their families being shot at point blank. And every day in our program, we play one testimony of a family that has suffered. And today I want to play out to you the heartbreaking testimony of a, a young woman who had to perform the last rites of her father, and she did it wearing the same clothes that she'd worn, the blood splattered clothes that she'd worn when she saw him being killed. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. She's only 26 years old, and this is what she described.
वो बोला कि तुम हिंदू हो क्या, तुम हिंदू हो क्या? तो पापा को उसमें कुछ नहीं बोले, फिर बोले कि तुम मुसलमान हो तो अजान पढ़ो। और पापा ने बोला कि आप जो बोलोगे मैं करता हूँ, बट मारना मत। ऐसे हाथ जोड़ रहे थे, हम लोग भी नीचे बैठे थे, हम लोग भी हाथ जोड़ रहे थे। तो उसने 3 गोलियाँ मारी, पहले इधर लगी मेरे पापा के ऊपर, सर के ऊपर, फिर एक इधर लगी थी और एक हार्ट के नज़दीक लगी थी, और वो 1 सेकंड में नीचे गिर गए। फिर मुझे रियलाइज़ हुआ कि ये शायद मुसलमान लोगों को मार रहे हैं। तो मैंने मेरे आंटी जो मेरे सामने बैठे थे, मेरे अंकल मेरे पास में मेरे हाथ पकड़ दिए थे, और आंटी ने उनका हाथ पकड़ा था, और मेरी मम्मी मेरे साइड में थी। मैंने दोनों की बिंदियाँ निकाल दी पहले, और मेरी मम्मी बोल रही थी, स्वामी जी हमारे जो है उनका नाम ले रही थी। तो मैंने बोला उनका नाम मत लो, अल्लाह अकबर बोलो, तो वो शायद छोड़ेंगे।
Very specific religious targeting, and one has to play it, even though it's so horrible to hear. You have to chronicle these testimonies. You have to record what happened. It is a horrific moment in our collective history. And I want to ask you, this आप हिंदू हो या मुस्लिम, आप हिंदू हो तो हम आपको मारेंगे. 25 of the 26 who were killed were Hindu. One was a Kashmiri Muslim, Wala, who was trying to save the lives of these tourists. What do you make of this very, 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 very focused religious targeting, General Hasnain?
See, Barkha, this is something which has not happened in the past. We have seen Chetasingpura, all were Sikhs, right? 36 of them who were killed were Sikhs. But no one asked them, you're Sikh, because it was obvious. I mean, that was a Sikh village. We had Vandhama. They knew that there were Pandits there who lived there, and no one had to go and do profiling. This time they chose a target where there were lots and lots of tourists. Obviously, they had been instructed to make sure that they go after the non-Muslims, the Hindus. There were no other non-Muslims there except the Hindus. And to identify them, get the means to identify them and make sure they do it to them. Now, the purpose behind it, you and I all know, is to raise communal temperatures in India, make sure that this issue is brought out, highlighted on media everywhere in the country. People get to know, right? The Muslims are shown to be in very, very poor light, and obviously the Muslims are feeling miserable themselves. No would a Muslim want to see a thing like this in the name of his faith. So I think it's been thought out by them on the other side. It's been thought out. The very fact that the Pakistan Army chief, unlike his predecessors, is so religiously oriented. He's a Hafiz, I'm told. And he uses, at the drop of a hat, he uses faith in all his speeches. And this nasty, dastardly speech which he used against India, against Hindus in particular, which was actually at the backdrop of this entire event. I think nothing could have been worse than that. It seems that as a strategy, this entire thing has been used strategically on purpose to bring about what they intend to bring about in the rest of India.
Absolutely. That is their attempted aim, but I think India has shown that we will not be divided. Now let's end with looking at the geopolitics and also the military signaling. I want to go back to the pictures of the kind of Air Force drill, the very dramatic Air Force drill that we saw on the Ganga Expressway, India's first night and day landing strip, with Rafales, with Mirage 2000, among the fighter jets that were part of this drill. And it carried on through the night. Before that, you had the Navy with the anti-ship missiles being fired. And the Navy, as I mentioned, is in an eye-to-eye drill almost off the coast of Gujarat with the Pakistan Navy. General Hasnain, you were talking about military posturing, like kinetic action on our own terms, but military posturing being very important. What is the significance of these drills that are taking place?
Well, Barkha, most nations follow this system. It's a part of a strategy where you show your capability, you display your prowess. This is there are two aspects to it. One is showing it to your adversary, showing it to the international community that you are ready. You have got all this under your belt at the moment, and everything is ready in a situation of just pressing a trigger. And more importantly, or as importantly, you show it to your own people, because morale, motivation, and morale of the nation is very important when it comes to going to war. Not that we are going to war immediately or that war is imminent, absolutely. But yes, preparedness is very, very important. And that is what India is projecting through this. Is this a form of gunboat diplomacy? I don't think so. This is not really gunboat diplomacy. We haven't crossed that kind of Rubicon to say that we are that aggressive where we can make a contact with the adversary and start a shooting war and things like that. That point has not been reached at all. All you're doing is actually just projection, nothing more.
The question is this to you, General Hasnain. Whenever the kinetic action comes, in whatever form it comes, I'm assuming right now that will come, but so working with that hypothesis, how do you war game for an adversary that is frankly crazy? If there is a self-loathing, kind of self-destruction disease in Pakistan where they don't seem to think about the consequences of what they're doing. Now, this country in the last week has made a nuclear threat. Today, its defense minister has made a threat to strike our Indus water projects. My question to you is, let's agree, and I'm sure I've only learned this from people like you, that India does not want some big war. India does not want a large-scale conflagration. India wants to punish and deter Pakistan for what it did in Pahalgam and hope that it will never do something like that ever again. But how do you calibrate on the escalatory ladder? How do you stop it from becoming war or limited war, given the irrationality of Pakistan?
That's $1 million question, and a very good question you asked, no doubt. We in the Indian Army, first of all, starting off on the aspect of the irrationality which Pakistan follows as a doctrine. First of all these statements that you're seeing happening, and my own Twitter handle is now under attack from the Pakistan ISPR hugely. I mean, the kind of things which I've been getting, I've been blocking since morning. I've been blocking all kinds of.
I mean, handles. you know that if for a country that thinks that there are Hindus here and Muslims there, General Ata Hasnain is a red rag to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what they're doing is they're taking a leaf out of the strategy of the Chinese, what is called gray zone warfare. The gray zone is essentially such that you don't really reveal your hand. So you say something one day, say something else the other day. Social media assists gray zone in a very, very big way. And the media itself is a huge weapon in this kind of a situation. I can tell you for one, today that I am a retired veteran. I can say this with comfort, that in my service, every year that I conducted a war game anytime with Pakistan as an adversary, I would always start by telling my officers, please give me a presentation on the psyche and mindset of the Pakistan Armed Forces. It's more important than the weapon that the enemy holds is to understand his mind, the psyche and the mindset. And my officers used to research this over extended period of time and present to me, and we would discuss it and we would make corrections in it, but get our understanding clear. So that's exactly what the Indian Army has been now doing, I'm sure, over a period of time, and they've got a very good understanding of the psyche and mindset of the Pakistan Army. This a kind of a fuzziness, this irrationality which is followed, we all understand it, that it's a weapon in their quiver. Having said this, limited war strategy is also very much on the cards. It's not always there that you have full spectrum war strategies which you look at. You look at certain areas, certain defined objectives, which will not hurt to the extent that a full calibration kind of a strategy will hurt. So one can't speak beyond that, but this is how exactly when you go about wargaming, you plan it out that way. And it can be over an extended period of time. What has been shown in the last 3-4 years is very clear that wars all around the world today, there's no longer short wars, right? You are not looking at 6-day wars, you're not looking at 14-day wars, you're not looking at 22-day wars of the past. What you're looking at is 2-year wars, so 3-year wars. You're seeing Ukraine started on the 24th of February 2022, 3 years and 3 or 4 months almost. Gaza started after the October the 7th of 2023, and we still haven't seen the end of it. So we have to be mindful of this, and that's, I'm sure, one of the factors which is being kept in mind here. If we don't want our economy affected in such a manner, we will make sure that we balance out our economic development and our military capability to make sure that our defense is ready at all times and in a position to deliver the message to the other side. Beyond that, I'm sure the armed forces have planned out their limited war options, and these will be executed at the time and place or when they choose to do so.
Final question, and by the way, there's just a news update that the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah is meeting with Prime Minister Modi, the first one-on-one or the first such meeting, an important meeting since the Pahalgam attack. And Omar Abdullah has stood in the assembly and said this is not the time to talk about anything else but what has happened in Pahalgam, not statehood, not anything else. And he has apologized because as a Kashmiri, he feels that he owes that. As a chief minister, he feels he owes that. I'm not sure, are these, yes, I guess, is this the image of, I'm just asking my producers if this is today's image. No, it's an old image. Let's not use it. It's confusing. Because it would be a grim image. Could we come out of this, please? Yeah, I just want to clarify that was not today's image. It was an archive image. But yes, the chief minister is meeting with the prime minister. I want to end by talking about the China factor. China has made rhetorical comments supporting Pakistan. How concerned are you with it? In the larger context of what the Indian military has been wargaming for, preparing itself for a long time, a two-front conflict. Now, I know that you have said that you don't believe that China would get involved militarily, going by the past, but we already have a militarized Ladakh, which we did not have pre-Galwan. We're living in a post-Galwan scenario. On the diplomatic front, the good news is that we've had a kind of rapprochement. So it's not like it was, let's say, a year ago. But how do you look at the China factor as India plans its next steps?
See, Barkha, for China to make any decisive kind of actions which will require India to actually start responding will mean that he will have to pull in some reserves of his from the hinterland. I don't think China will want to do that because that's a next step towards aggression. And I don't think China is looking towards rolling back the gains that have been made diplomatically over the last 1 year or so. Having said that, the Chinese are going to support Pakistan. There's no doubt about it that their policy is very clear. Their relationship is what deeper than the oceans and higher than the skies. That aspect will continue. Whether it will translate into creating a second front, the two front, which we talk about each time is the million-dollar question. And you have to remember this aspect that after Galwan and after the 2020 incursions, or whatever you wish to call them, there has been a change in the Indian ORBAT, the order of battle of the Indian Army. We won't talk more than that, but the fact is that certain segment of forces have had to be diverted there. And you've seen the results of that with what happened in 2023-24 south of the Pir Panjal in terms of terrorist operations, terrorist actions which took place. So, having said that, I don't think any of these reserves, the Indian reserves, are going to be looking northwards at this time unless some very, very provocative action on the part of the Chinese takes place. And that, to my mind, the chances of that are very, very remote. They will definitely diplomatically support Pakistan hugely, but then they will also have to remember that there is Russia to contend with, there's the US to contend with, there is the European Union to contend with, there are lots of, there's the Middle East to contend with. The Chinese are not going to do something in isolation of what the rest of the world will do. There was a time when China used to do things out of sync with the rest of the world. No longer can that be possible. Today, they will follow some kind of norms which the rest of the world is following. And therefore, I do not foresee anything happening militarily on the northern front.
Right. I think we've covered a lot of ground from politics, geopolitics to kinetic action to the Indus Water Treaty to the mood in Kashmir. Always a pleasure and education to speak with you, General Ata Hasnain, former General Officer Commanding, former Brigade Commander of Uri. The line of control is hot. People of India are angry, but General Hasnain is saying effectively respond, don't react. That is, I think, the critical point. Keep them guessing. Strike them where it hurts, and even sort of low intensity conflict and this wait, because by the way, there's complete panic in Pakistan. They're attempting to mobilize. This is all costly to a country that's actually living on loans from the rest of the world. Thank you so much, General Ata Hasnain. It's been a pleasure. Thank you and hope to see you again soon. Thank you, sir. Take care. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.